everybody. Happy September 15th, 2020. My name is Christopher Saunders, and this is the Connecticut Sports Talent Show, where we talk all things talents in Connecticut. And on today's show, I have a senior running back from Lyman Hall. His name, Christain Salaman. Christain, it's great to have you on, man.
Great to be here. Thank you.
You know, I think first and foremost, I want to ask, how are you and your family doing, especially with dealing with not just COVID-19, but also the stress and the anxiety of not knowing about your high school football season, particularly because this is a very big season for you?
It's been rough to think about it, you know. I've played football pretty much my whole life, and it's not just taking a toll on me, it's taking a toll on my family too, because they see how it's affecting me. But it's been pretty rough, honestly.
And you talk about that toll, and I know I wanted to talk about this later, but I think it's good to be able to mention it right now. The mental health and the anxiety that you, parents, everybody involved since probably April, May, just thinking about, is there going to be a season? Won't there be a season? I mean, just take me into that, because it's one thing for me on the outside who's not dealing with it to kind of speculate. It's another to hear from your mouth. So the floor is yours.
It's definitely hard, because that's all that's been going through my mind, you know, and now we have schoolwork, and it's hard to focus on that when I'm thinking about, are we going to play tomorrow, or is something going to change? It's just been really rough, you know, to think about maybe this would be my last season would be my last time ever playing. That's real hard to think about.
So you probably won't even play college football. Is that correct? The way you're sounding?
I do want to play college football, but my senior year was really going to help me get to that goal. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens with that.
And that's a part, too, that I think not being able to have this season, and I know there's been talks about this AAU football league. Until I actually see it, I feel like so much of this past couple months has been, talk, and, oh, this is a good idea, this is a good idea. Until it's put on paper and it actually happens, it's just all talk, in my opinion. But I think for someone like, for you specifically, a senior who needs as much tape as possible so that they have an opportunity to get looked at by various colleges, again, going back to you, this would have been a huge year for you.
Yeah, this was definitely going to be my biggest year. I've been working harder than I've ever had before. I still am, because there's always that small chance, but I'm doing pretty much everything that I can.
How hard has it been for you because of the unknown, not knowing, and with every day being, in the words of the CIAC, a fluid situation? How has it been for you? I know, exactly. You shake your head. I'm shaking my head too. How did you get up every day for lifting, for practice? Like, just because I'm telling you right now, I would find it difficult to motivate myself. Like, why should I do this extra rep when we might not even play?
Yeah, that's a feeling that's been going around, you know. I feel like I'm still motivated because it's still my senior season, so I have to be motivated. And if I don't, who knows what can happen? But that's been a factor on my team. I can see the lack of motivation because every day is something different. You're thinking this, you're thinking that, and you really don't know what's going to happen.
I think now is a good time to kind of move away from this a little bit. I think the mental side has been hit on enough. Let's talk about some positive that happened as far as in Hartford last week. Both you and numerous teams and players and such and coaches went down to Hartford at the Capitol to kind of protest and say your 2 cents. Give your speech about why football should be played, the let them play, let us play movement. And you were one of the speakers. Now, your speech in particular was more about the brotherhood and the percentages. First, I want to hit on the percentages part. Connecticut had the lowest percentages in the country, and still do. But then you also mentioned a state like Wisconsin, which had the highest, but they were playing. Take me into that.
I was just doing some research, and I found that Wisconsin recorded their highest percentage a few weeks ago at 16%, and they're playing some type of football, but Connecticut is at 1% not playing football. So that just has my mind racing about what it's not really clear to me. I just want an explanation to why we can't have a chance if they can.
You just want answers because it doesn't make any sense that, it's one thing if they came out months ago and said, okay, we're not playing because of this, and they just put the stamp and they sent it, and then there could have been solutions to try to help out guys like yourself to try to get looks. But they've prolonged this for so long. I've mentioned this to many players and coaches that, in my opinion, the DPH was never going to change their mind about this because they knew that they weren't, at least for coaches, that 7-on-7 was not going to happen. But my opinion, this is just a thought, that they had you guys go through off-season workouts because they thought that cases would spike. Cases did not spike, so because of that, now they had egg on their face, and now they were trying to scramble to come up with something. And they've kept the CIAC and strung them along. And I give the CIAC credit. They're fighting and they're trying to find every which way to get the young men and women, because volleyball too is also mentioned, to be able to play. They want everybody to play. But there comes a point where, you want to lose the battle, but you want to try to win the war at the end of the day.
Yeah, just the stringing along has been hard because, like I said before, every day you're thinking something different. You don't know what's going to happen. But I definitely think that we at least deserve, if not a chance, a decision and a final one. Because just me thinking we're having a season and then the next day I'm not, it's very hard. It really is.
And like we talked about earlier, the mental toll and just kind of what, this virus has affected so many people in so many ways, but the psychological side and what this has done, I think, insurmountable damage. And just like how the virus has affected businesses and such, and we'll see that over probably the next 5 to 6 years, maybe longer, I think the psychological side and how this has gone with people will affect probably a generation. Because you're talking about how in the next month or so, you guys could very well be doing distance learning and you'll be at home. So it's like that whole aspect, and there's so many ways to dissect it, but this is something that will affect us for a long time.
Yeah, definitely. The way things can change so fast right now is very, it just has us all unstable. Mm-hmm. Our minds are just racing. We don't know what to think, what to do, because in the second, everything can just change, and you don't know.
Now, I want to ask your opinion about something that Lamont has said a number of times. I don't know if you saw this, but he said that he thinks football can be played in February. Now, last time I checked, it still snows, it's freezing cold, and then you also have the account of, from hearing Dr. Fauci and others, that there's going to be a second wave. So I don't know how that can happen. So what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, that's another thing that's just, you really don't know how to think about that, because the wintertime people are inside and there very could be a spike, and I don't think that we can play in that type of situation, but if that's possible, I'm all for it. That's just something it's just putting another idea in our heads that could very well not be possible.
It almost sounds like, to me, it's like lip service, where he's kind of deflecting, going to another side, but I don't think Lamont's stupid. He knows about the second wave potentially coming in with flu season. So why would you even say a month like February where that's still going to be in the flu season last time I checked?
Yeah, I don't know, honestly. Just everything that's going on right now with Lamont and the CIAC and the DPH all kind of being on different ends is it's not good, obviously, because we want them, all three of them, to be on the same page. But right now they're not, and that's the scary thing.
The only consistent, well, two consistencies. One, the CIAC wants the athletes to play. That has been consistent from the start.
Yeah.
The other one has been DPH saying that football cannot be played 11 on 11. And they've said this now for a while, so I think the credit has to be given where they haven't changed their course. But I think a failure by all parties, not so much DPH because it's not their concern with sports. They're scientists. They're not athletes. Maybe they were when they played back then, but not now. But the point I'm trying to make is I think the months that have been, like I said, you lose the battle but try to win the war. I think if the CIAC, Lamar, or somebody could have maybe intervened in between and said, hey, we're not going to get anywhere. We're not going to change DPH's mind. We know that if we go against DPH, I mean, look, we saw New Haven and Bridgeport, Coventry, and others say, we're not going to wait. We're done. We're not going to have any fall sports, or we're going to have very minimal. So I think if things could have been done more effectively a couple months ago, maybe we would have sort of a plan as far as having the athletes, for you in particular, seniors, juniors, and so forth, have something put together. I don't know what, again, a lot more ideas to be able to throw out there, but at least there could have been some sort of solutions. And think about it, if this was done in, like, let's say July, if the decision was made, you would have had August, you would have had September. It was still warm, it still is to a certain degree, but we're already September 15th, mid-September, and we're still trying to figure this out.
Yeah, I think we deserved a decision way back a while ago. I agree with that. There's just not words to explain it. It's real hard, but just the continuous dragging along. It's just getting later and later and later, and eventually it's just going to be too late.
I could tell this has, I don't mean this in a rude way, but all of the athletes and players players and coaches that I've talked to, I could see the same facial expression. They all look like they just lost the state championship final by like 1 point. And it's still, it almost looks like you guys are defeated. And again, I don't mean that in a rude way, but I think that's something that the CIEC and the DPH need to take into account. Like what this has done to all of you.
That's all athletes right now are hurting. But we're all trying to find a way to make it work because we have to. And I think that the CIAC and DPH and all of them should definitely take into account that we're hurting right now, and we need a decision so we can figure out what the next step is for us.
You know what? We'll end it right there. Perfectly said, Christian. I really do appreciate you coming on. You're welcome to come back on anytime. If there's not a football season, I'll do my best as far as using this to be able to help out seniors like yourself and others who are trying to get noticed and have colleges see that maybe the tape is one thing, but looking at the athlete and how they handle this adversity, which I could say I think Connecticut, as far as the athletes, have dealt with more adversity than even some of the best, football players in the country, at least on the football gridiron. But Christian, I really do appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That'll wrap things up here in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. And remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent. And I'm on a journey to find them all. Have a good one, everybody. And be well.